Hello everybody, we are going to deal with Chapter 3, the sources of organizational crisis. Again, you have to focus on page numbers 71 to 95. Organizations exist within a complex set of network of political, legal, economical, social, and technological forces, making up the external environment called macro environment. In this part of the section, we will be dealing with political, legal, economic, and social part. Technological part will be produced in another video. Some crises are rooted in more than one area of the macro environment. COVID-19 is the best example. It is as politico-legal, workplace and product liability issues are there. Economic, widespread unemployment you can see. Social, example, the use of face masks and social distancing to slow the spread. And finally, the development and treatment of vaccines. And that is the technological part, finally. The development and treatment and vaccines. Political legal forces. Political legal forces include outcomes of the government official decisions, impact of existing and new legislation, judicial court decisions, and decisions rendered by various regulatory commissions at all levels of government. So that is the political legal force, is mainly from the government officials. Okay? Although the details surrounding major legislations are always complicated, many of these laws can be viewed as response to an industry organizational crisis that already existed. Many times government responds to a crisis with legislation. That's what is meant by that. For example, Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, FCPA, prohibits US firms from paying bribes to foreign officials to advance their business interest, which was passed in response to the infamous Lockheed bribery case. Another example is when the mad cow disease occurred. The disease itself was a crisis. The reaction to it created secondary crisis. That is, killing all the animals created a secondary crisis. California Transparency in Supply Chains Act focuses on keeping slavery out of their supply chains for companies with revenue of more than $100 million. So it prevents, outsourcing to companies who has child labor and other issues. Economic forces. Over-expansion of credit. Expanding the credit can create what appears to be economic growth in the short term, as well as a bubble and economic stagnation in the long term. Economists defines a recession as 2 consecutive quarters of decline in GDP. Recessions can create crisis for many organizations because spending decreases and the budget cuts typically follow. The ripple effect produced by recessions can create even more crisis. There is a direct positive relationship between positive thinking and economic crisis. Motivational speakers, self-help books, and endless array of online materials compel individuals to view themselves and their abilities more confidently. The increased sense of self may have contributed to an increase in desire for material goods, amplifying consumerism that is not based on adequate financial resources. So they think that they can spend first and pay later. Ehrenreich in 2009 surmised this irrational exuberance actually led to the 2008 economic crisis. The next one is the volatility of the oil prices. Rising oil prices can drain anticipated profits by raising operating costs. The lower per barrel price can potentially raise environmental costs. So it both can create a crisis. Some analysts fear that lower oil prices may reduce research on alternative energy. This explanation is plausible, but investments into solar, electric, wind, and other energy sources are likely to continue because of their long-term payouts, and that could be sizable payout. Now we're dealing with the social forces. Social forces can trigger crisis and include societal values, trends, traditions, and religious practices. Social forces are beliefs that most citizens hold in high esteem. In the United States, prominent values include individual freedom, fairness, concern for the environment, and diversity, consumer rights, and opportunity. Potential crises emanating from social forces can lead to a loss of trust and anger towards corporations and various forms of social disapproval, including boycotts, harmful websites, and bad publicity. Another problem is regarding social forces is the distrust of corporate America. One social force of keen interest is the anti-corporate sentiment showed by many consumers. Early manifestations of corporate distrust occurred when ordinary people believed unfounded rumors. While firms' most positive actions are largely unreported, executives generally do not always live up to society's ethical standards. So even if you are doing something good, it may not be reported, but and another reason, of course, is the executives' unethical behavior. The Occupy Wall Street movement, launched in 2011, is another example of corporate distrust. The next one is the preoccupation with the bargain. The distrust of corporate America also extends to other industries like discount retails, where a hefty premium is placed on low prices. To sell goods at low price, the retailers must control costs. Keeping labor costs low is necessity, and employees are offered limited benefits. Americans' preoccupation with the bargain extends beyond the price, as consumer pressures can prompt retailers to sacrifice quality. Craftsmanship and quality, once valued in the United States, when consumers were willing to pay more for higher quality goods, seem to be replaced with low quality products at low prices. Racial equality. The United States has made substantial progress in the recent decades in the battle against racial discrimination. Organizations ensured access to all customers, irrespective of race or ethnicity. An incident of racism involving a large company can create an intense public lash, and hence the crisis. Supply chain integrity is another problem. There is a growing concern, is a social force actually. There is a growing concern over supply chain integrity for large multinational corporations, those MNCs that source products to developing nations. When slavery taints one part of the supply chain, it taints the entire supply chain or entire chain, and purchasing firm can quickly become the part of the problem. Remember Nike's issue of sweatshops. The next continuing on the supply chain integrity, the deeper the supply chain trials extend into those developing countries, the more the firm is exposed to risk from exploitative practices. So the firms fundamentally address two quick questions. How do we keep production costs low so that customers will still buy our products? How do we balance that goal by sourcing deep into supply chains in the global south while maintaining our supply chain's integrity? Next one is a concern for economic, environmental, and sustainable development, which is another social force. Sustainable development means actually meeting the needs of the present world without compromising future generations. So ability to meet their needs without compromising future generations' ability to meet their needs. So we are looking at meeting the needs of the present day world without compromising future generations' ability to meet their needs. A prominent ecological concern for many industries, particularly those involved in heavy manufacturing, is the ongoing debate over anthropogenic or human-induced climate change. Firms must evaluate and consider stakeholder expectations. Look at an example of Interface, a modular carpet manufacturer from Georgia, used a life cycle assessment process to eliminate the waste in the production process and achieved a net zero footprint in 2019. Such initiatives can create a good image or brand image and can get into better sales for the companies. Thank you very much. Have a good day.